Cheeseheads, what is up? Welcome back as Brennan and I continue on with our endeavor, taking a look at each of the Green Bay Packers draft picks. If you missed any of the first few videos, head on over to my YouTube page. We got Eric Stokes, Josh Myers, Amari Rogers, and while you're there, hit subscribe. But today, it's round 4, which means we are taking a look at offensive lineman Royce Newman from Ole Miss, and I wore the other offensive lineman selection shirt today. Got my Badger gear on for Cole Van Lanen. But before we dive into that, my name is Paul Brennen. If you're viewing us for the first time, you can find my work at Dairyland Express as well as Cheesehead TV. And joining me is Brennan Roop, and I got his name right this time.
To be honest with you, when you got it wrong the first time, I didn't even notice because everyone calls me Rupp. So it's just natural for me to just not even notice it now. So
Brennan is the draft analyst over at Game On Wisconsin, does terrific work. So follow Brennan on Twitter, follow Game On Wisconsin, all that good stuff. Brennan, how are we?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm fantastic. The weather's finally turned here in Green Bay. I think we're over that hump of, kind of 50s and rainy junk. So we're good to go in that regard.
I think summer's finally here, so that's nice.
Absolutely. Always nice. So today, as I said, we are going to discuss Royce Newman, offensive lineman from Ole Miss. I think I talked about this when we were discussing Josh Myers. Well, cornerback got a lot of the attention this offseason, and rightfully so. For me, honestly, at the top of the list was offensive tackle. Mm-hmm. Premier position. They had very thin depth, even with David Bakhtiari. And this is obviously taking place before the draft. But with David Bakhtiari out, we have Elton Jenkins, Billy Turner, and like I said, I think those two can be a very fine tandem at your tackle positions. But we're one injury away from Royce Newman and his 14 career snaps, just being an unknown, being thrown into the mix. After that, they didn't have any other tackles on the roster. So without Bakhtiari, an extremely thin group, like you cannot go into the season with just those three. And even with Bakhtiari, it's a thin group as well. And also moving Elton Jenkins out, now there's a position to fill along the interior. They do have options there, but still not obviously another Elton Jenkins by any means. So the fact that the Green Bay Packers addressed tackle twice in this draft, not surprised whatsoever. I did expect them to go a little bit earlier with the need and get one of those, bigger names that we all had our eyes on, the Tevin Jenkins, Liam Eichenbergs of the this year's draft. But in round 4, they went with Royce Newman. And there's been you read the draft analyst reports, what folks have to say about him. It's kind of a back and forth, or maybe even more so think that he is better positioned in the NFL to play the interior guard position rather than a tackle. He has experience at both, which fits the Green Bay Packers mold for an offensive lineman. They love that versatility. And speaking of versatility on the offensive line, I actually have an article out at Cheesehead TV today discussing that. So check that out, please. But Newman in 2019 as a guard gave up just 1 sack and 10 pressures in about 420 pass blocking snaps. 2020, he was the offensive tackle, right tackle for Ole Miss, gave up 2 sacks, 25 pressures. So Brennan, let's take out after the draft. Let's try to wipe that from our brain. Going into the draft, did you see Newman as more of a guard or more of a tackle?
I saw him as a guard. I think that his tape was better when he was playing guard 2019. He can play a right tackle. I think he's just better in a phone booth where he can just be kind of in the middle, not on the edge on the island there, going against the faster edge rushers. I think he's better at guard, but I think he can play tackle. Since we're kind of talking about that topic, I thought there was a good quote from John Eric Sullivan. Let me pull it up here quick. When they were talking about it after the fact of where he thinks he could play. Let me just pull it up here 1 second. It was, we think he'll be viable. He's been pretty durable there. I don't think it's affected in any other way. He's certainly still a young man. We don't think he's had enough. That's about his age. Here's where he is about the versatility, where he can play guard or tackle. I thought he played pretty good ball at both. I think from a dimension standpoint, if you're pinning me down, you probably say he's certainly long enough to play tackle. But from a dimension standpoint, when you see him off the huff, he's probably better fit at guard. Then you watch him play right tackle. He's got good feet. He's got good lateral quickness. He stays in front of guys and mirrors and sustains. So there's the guy who's in charge of maybe drafting co-captain. Mm-hmm. I think he sees him at both. I think he can play tackle. But if I were the coach, I'd want to play at guard.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's always an added benefit of having that ability to kick a tackle inside, and especially someone who has that experience. Mm-hmm. But given the Packers' depth at the position, which I've already discussed, they're going to give him, as well as Van Lanen. I think once we get to Cole Van Lanen, we're going to have a similar conversation in this regard. But they are loaded with interior options. It's nice to have this flexibility, but these two guys are going to get every single opportunity to try to stick on the outside because they just honestly need the bodies there. So
go further on that, you could play Billy Turner at right tackle, but you could also play guard. So if Van Lanen or Newman look great at right tackle, why not just have him play there and then stick Turner at guard? And there you go.
And that's the beauty about having this flexibility that they have along the offensive line. Last summer, Matt LaFleur was big, as he should be, on competition, specifically on the right side where the guard and tackle positions were up for grabs. And he talked about how he wants to put the best 5 on the field. Mm-hmm. And when you have the ability of, an Elton Jenkins, Billy Turner, Van Lanen, Newman, even Patrick Runyon playing multiple interior positions, including center for Patrick, you have that flexibility. Josh Myers can play center or guard. You really do have that flexibility to go, hey, these are our best 5. And if 3 of the best 5 are true tackles, then, hey, you got that ability to still put your best 5 out there. And we saw that was incredible to their success last year, was how good the offensive line was. Offensive line's kind of like kicker, special teams. You only talk about it if they're screwing up. Yeah. But the Green Bay Packers their offensive line, they were first by ESPN's pass blocking, run blocking metrics. I think first in fewest pressures allowed, second in fewest sacks allowed. And to do that with so many injuries, having to play musical chairs, that's just uncommon. You don't see that. Most offensive lines run into the injuries that they had. Bakhtiari, and not just even at the end of the season, he missed time like in the middle as well. Lindsley, Wagner was beaten up. Turner missed the start of the year. Lane Taylor's out for the year. You have those kind of injuries, the kind of movement that took place. You don't see offensive lines play that well. So I think Newman and that ability to kick inside does help, especially if he does show that he can stick at tackle. Now Elton Jenkins can go back to guard. Billy Turner can go back to guard. You just have a ton of options. Versatility leads to options. Options leads to flexibility. Every single NFL team.
Love that quote. But yeah, no, like you said, it's crazy. Elton Jenkins, you think of him as just a guard. He showed how valuable he was last year, being able to play tackle, being able to play center. Lucas Patrick, being able to play guard, being able to play center. Just to have that flexibility. And I think that's why Newman and even Van Lanen were high on their board on day 3 because of that versatility. And it just adds options to it's going to be really interesting. We're going to probably talk about this later, but the battle for right guard and even right tackle is going to be a lot of fun to watch in training camp.
Absolutely, 100%. So with this selection, like you said, you thought that Newman is going to be better as a guard in the NFL than a tackle. So when his name was called for the Green Bay Packers in round 4, were you surprised? And I did a little looking back. Brendan James from Nebraska, he's someone that the Green Bay Packers met with. And they obviously might have met with Newman as well. I'm sure they did. We just didn't hear about it reportedly. He was still available. Jalen Moore from Western Michigan, he's someone that I actually really liked as a day 3 pick. He was still on the board. Larry Borum from Missouri, another offensive tackle. And obviously we can sit here and try to nitpick other positions, but they went with tackle. It's a big need. So just focusing on the tackle, those were 3 names that followed not long after Newman was off the board. So were you surprised by the selection when they called his name?
I wasn't surprised. You can never have enough quality offensive linemen, and the versatility we talked on it. That's very valuable for a team. I honestly thought if they were going to go offensive lineman after taking Myers, I thought it was going to be a true offensive tackle, someone that just strictly plays offensive tackle. But maybe they view Newman as a right tackle. I think he's a better at guard, but what do I know? I don't know anything better than the scout. So I would say I was surprised by the fact that it was another interior lineman. But again, you can never have enough quality linemen. And the Packers have had success drafting guys in the 4th round that are linemen. Bakhtiari, Sitton, Lane. Maybe Newman's the next one in line. Maybe he's going to be the next starting right guard for the next decade. Or maybe he's going to be a swing tackle. Maybe he's going to be pure right tackle. So I wasn't surprised necessarily that I was a lineman. I just thought it was going to be a pure tackle if they took one.
100%. And you hit on something there that I just want to touch on quick. You can never have too many quality offensive linemen. You're never going to see this guy right here upset about an offensive lineman draft pick because, like you said, interior, center, tackle. Obviously, tackle's the bigger need than interior. But if he turns out to be a reliable contributor wherever it is, that's 100% worth the pick right there. As we still see, the game of football has changed throughout the years, but look at the NFC Championship especially. Look at the Super Bowl. Football's still won and lost in the trenches. Beef up the offensive line.
Yeah.
So taking a closer look at Newman, what stood out to you? What does he do? What does he do well?
Well, we already talked about the versatility, but just on the football field, he's quick out of his stance. He's got good short area quickness to pull and climb to the second level. He's comfortable playing in a phone booth, which that's what I love about him. I think that's why he's going to be a great guard. I think he's good in pass protection there. That's when I watched his 2019 film, I was blown away. The 2020 kind of left me flat, but again, he was playing a new position. So what can we expect from that? And I think just that versatility is going to be huge. I know we've talked about it already so much, but just the fact that he can play guard, he can play center, he can play right tackle. I think that's why this is such a valuable pick. And even if he doesn't become a starter, just having that guy to be a backup anywhere is going to be valuable to the Packers.
And something that these two selections, taking two tackles, didn't close the door on, at least not for me, is where the Packers see Elgton Jenkins long term.
Mm-hmm.
He's entering year 3 now, and maybe he's a guard, but I mean, if Newman, Van Lanen, neither, Runyon are better fits inside, I mean, they're obviously well equipped. Then they have Myers at center to handle that in that interior group, and that's a strong group based on what we are projecting them to be. So maybe this still leaves the door open for they still think Jenkins is their guy at right tackle moving forward with Bakhtiari at left. I think that's still on the table.
That would be. I never even thought about that, moving Jenkins to tackle, but that would be a heck of a line, having Bakhtiari, Runyon, Newman, Van Lanen, Patrick at guard, Myers at center, one of the 4 guys I just mentioned at right guard, or Billy Turner probably at right guard, and then Elgton Jenkins at right tackle. I mean, that would be a heck of an offensive line.
It is, and they're all young. Yeah, exactly. Everyone in that group, because I mean, Turner could be gone after this year. This is Patrick's final year of his deal, I'm pretty sure. So all those other guys that we mentioned, there's Bakhtiari and then 4 guys on rookie deals. I mean, as far as team building, that's ideal. That's what you're going for.
Well, again, that's another reason why that versatility is so important, because they have so many. Again, and that was hard to me. I don't know how you felt when you were kind of projecting what their needs were, but it was hard to project what they thought was a need along the offensive line.
Absolutely.
Because of Elgton Jenkins' versatility, Lucas Patrick can play center or guard. There was a lot of moving parts, and it was hard to tell which one they were going to value. Hey, we're going to attack this position now.
Oh, absolutely. And positionless that term's a little too aggressive for what we're trying to describe here. But like I said, LaFleur came out and told us last summer he wants the best 5. So in a way, there is a little bit of that. You're a guard, you're a tackle. That's fine. We're going to put you out there and we're going to make it work. Moving along to what Newman may struggle with. So what are some areas of his game that he'll have to improve upon?
Watching his film was kind of boring for me. There wasn't a Quentin Nelson like, I'm going to just smack this guy into the ground, I'm going to bury you. He was just a very finesse guy. He wasn't a finisher. So I think if there's a way to maybe bring some aggression out of him, I don't know if that's something they can do. With some guys, that's just his mindset. But you just didn't see him finishing blocks. So that's something that I think that would be maybe something you can coach up. But other than that, I think he was a very quality day 3 pick. There wasn't a lot of holes in his game. And some of the stuff that he had issues with is just stuff that he can't grow longer arms. Right. You can't become quicker. So it's just, I think it was if I could say one thing, it probably was just his tenaciousness. He didn't have that. And that's what I like to see when I watch linemen. I like to see guys that get very into the ground. And that was just something that wasn't his play style.
So focusing on him as a tackle specifically, when it comes to bull rushes versus speed rushes, do you see him being better equipped to handle one versus the other?
I think he can handle both. He's got quick feet, like John Eric Sullivan said. He can mirror those, and I think he's got good functional strength to match up against guys that are just come right into your chest. So I think he can handle both of those very well.
And then run blocker, pass protector, is there one that stood out, or was he just solid at both?
I think he was a better pass protector, especially at guard. I didn't see a lot of the things that were issues at right tackle. I just think he fits better at guard in that scenario.
And then lastly here, what is his role in 2021 specifically? Is it just depth, Do you see the potential to crack the lineup? What are your thoughts for him or expectations moving forward?
I think the expectation is hopefully he can start at right guard. But again, they have a lot of options there. So he's going to have to beat out John Running. He's going to have to beat out Lucas Patrick. Maybe he's got to beat out Josh Myers because maybe Lucas Patrick gets the starting job. It's hard to tell. The hope is that he can start at right guard, but at worst, he's going to be a very valuable backup who can play guard, center, or right tackle. So I think that's kind of where you expect him to be his rookie year, and then maybe his second year in the league, like you said, maybe Billy Turner is gone. So maybe he's going to be a starter then. So I think the hope is that he can crack it as a rookie, but I think the expectation for me anyways is that he's going to be a very valuable backup.
Mm-hmm. And you just hit on what my follow-up question was going to be with looking at 2022. Personally, I think that he's going to be a backup this year, provide some quality needed depth that they have. And I think the hope is that he or Van Lanen, once we get to talking about him, is that they can take over that right tackle spot. Because the Green Bay Packers, they added some voided years to Billy Turner's deal this offseason to help get under that salary cap. But if they want to get out of his contract a year from now, next offseason, they absolutely can. And considering that we don't know the state of where this team's going to be at this point, that's very much in play. I mean, honestly, there could be a lot of guys on this roster right now, veteran players, who may not be here next year, and Turner could be one of them. So I think the hope is that Newman or Van Lanen, they could transition to that right tackle role after a year of development. And they'll be working with Adam Stenavich, who the offensive line, like I said, gets very little credit. The offensive line coach, I believe, gets even less credit. And development, the cohesiveness, the way this group played last year, Stenavich has been fantastic. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be too long before he's getting calls about offensive coordinator roles and moving up.
Yeah, I mean, how many casual Packer fans could tell you who the offensive line coach was? I mean, they probably still think it's James Campen or whatever his name was. So it's one of those things where it is true. If the offensive line is playing good, you don't talk about you. But when they're playing like crap, that's all you can talk about. And last year, they weren't talking about the offensive line at all because they were just lights out.
Absolutely. Well, friends, there you have it. That is our thoughts on Royce Newman. Like I said, go back to my YouTube page. You can find the first 3 picks along with this Newman video. We'll be back in the coming days looking at cornerback, Slayton, sorry. He was the pick before Shamar Jean Charles. So Tadarius Slayton is up next. Until then, you can find me on Twitter at Paul_Brennen. My work is at Dairyland Express and Cheesehead TV. Brennan, let these fine folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Royal_Roop. And then you can find my work at Game On Wisconsin.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Until next time, take care and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.